Hello, class. Welcome in today. I'm at the desk here in front of the computer screen because I'm going to be doing some numbers today and doing some on-hand research here. But you're here because you've heard a lot about the college football playoffs this year changing drastically from 4 to 12 teams, a triplage in what it was before, and where there was plenty of debate in 4 teams playing, there is a shit ton more for 12 teams. But I'm going to be here for your definitive cliff notes and guidelines and factoids on this whole mess. It's kind of a fun mess, I would say. Now, I know that you might be, having your own opinions, and by the end of the video, unless you're with me, unless you agree with my factoid points, then you're gonna be wrong. I mean, I'm already trying to prove, not trying to, I'm already going to prove Joel Klatt and Paul Feinbaum wrong. If you watch ESPN or Fox Sports or watch YouTube enough and kind of listen to some of those talking heads, they kind of know what they're talking about. They kind of do. They just do it on a bigger screen than I do. But I'm going to be here to tell you the definitive rights and wrongs of the selection, the whole playoff system here. So, if you're interested, stick around. If you're also interested, share out with ESPN or Fox Sports so I can be a talking head for their college football playoff department. Get on a book, pen, and pencil, because class is in session. Let's go. So I just got a match on one of the dating apps that I have. You know what isn't a match, though? 2024 Alabama and the college football playoffs. That was a really bad joke. I know. So, they changed the system this year. If you're not familiar with college football, just a brief kind of history. Early 2000s until 2013, they had BCS, Bowl Championship System, or championship schools. And that's where you had a computer, pick the top 2 teams, and it was very, I would say, objective then with the numbers then. It made it really rigid. But then you add the college football playoff proposal, and in 2014 you have 4 teams that are going through a selection committee of about 12 or 13 people, and it made it more subjective, but still plenty of entertainment in terms of the talking points and who's your Final Four, who's in, who's the first 2 out. I always thought it should have been 6 teams, because 6 teams is what, at least beforehand, the NFL playoff system was. The top 2 teams got a bye, and then the next 3 and 4 seed would be a division winner, and they would host 2 wildcard teams, and then from there they would play the number 1 and 2 seeds. I thought that would have been a great system. At the time, it would have kept all Power 5, at the time, Power 5 conference champions in, and then 1 wildcard team. Maybe Notre Dame if they were good enough, and if we trusted them to actually score in a college football playoff game. Or maybe score enough, because they usually don't. They lose, but sometimes they don't score even like 2-3 touchdowns. Anyways, but now it's 12 teams. The idea is the rankings and the bracket are different. It is a little confusing, but because like right now in the rankings, there is in the ranking order, Oregon, quack quack, Georgia, Texas, Penn State, Notre Dame at 5, Ohio State, Tennessee. So those are the top 7 teams, and then in Indiana at 8, Boise State at 9, SMU at 10. So Uh, those are the rankings, but the seeding is Oregon 1, Georgia 2, Boise State 3, Arizona State 4, even though Arizona State is ranked 12th because they're the fourth highest conference champion. They get a bye. That's going to be a little controversial, and I'll talk about that in a moment or so. But you have the 5 through 12 hosting a playoff game at their home stadium, which will be great. That'll be so cool because some of these places are really electric to begin with. Even Penn State with their whiteouts, even that'll be cool. They probably won't win their game, but it'd be cool to see. Ohio State hosting. I hate Ohio State, but this would be a cool atmosphere, especially playing a night game because so many people kept whining and bitching about how they kept having to play afternoon games. Who cares? And then from there, they'll play the top 4 teams on at the regular, traditional New Year's Six bowl games, and then keep going on from there. Anywho's, so now that I've wasted just about the same amount of time in my last 2 videos, I think, explaining everything. So here's where the controversy is that people think there is. Like Paul Feinbaum thinks that SMU didn't deserve to be in the playoffs. They did play for a conference championship game, which is supposed to be a higher valued data point than some of the other stats to kind of data points to keep in mind. I would say that SMU was supposed to get in. If they won or not, they did not win their conference. They joined the ACC this year, and they played Clemson. Clemson just snuck in because Miami shot themselves in the foot in the last weekend of conference play against Syracuse. So it became Clemson, and they had a big lead on SMU in the conference game. SMU came back to tie it up, and then Clemson kicked a miracle 56-yard or so field goal. And that meant Clemson being a conference champion, they get it automatically in the or one of the 5 higher seeded, higher ranked conference champions, they get automatically in the playoffs. Because Army won their conference, but they're not in. Ohio, University of Ohio Bobcats, they won their conference, or maybe Miami did. Well, the MAC didn't get in. It's based on the top 5 conferences. So the whole ordeal that a lot of people are crying about, Daddy Bald Paul Feinbaum is bitching about, and I hear some other people complaining too throughout sports, YouTube, and TV that, Alabama should have gotten in over SMU because SMU doesn't have a great resume. They might have a better record, but Alabama has a better resume. So at the moment, I'm looking at the standings here, and SMU is ranked 10th. Alabama is ranked 11th. Let's see. Now, granted, I was not a math major in college, and I have a medical condition. Being a musician, I cannot count past 4. If you get the joke, let me know. But I would like to think that 11 wins is more than 9 wins. And 2 losses, granted, one of those losses was in a conference championship game, is less than 3 losses that Alabama has. I mean, I get it. Everyone glazes over. Everyone gets such a hard on that the SEC is the best in the football conference, college football conference, in the world. It's the best. So let's take a look into Alabama's record here. I mean, they must have lost some pretty close games to some pretty tough teams. I have so many of these tabs open. I don't know where I put them. To be honest, this is really bad. That I'm looking at it like this, but I can't find where they went. It's all jumbled up. All right, let me take a look here. So, non-conference play to start the season: win over Western Kentucky and South Florida at home, and then at Wisconsin. That Bama beat them up 42-10. Then they had a really nice win against Georgia, Georgia was number 2 and they won at home 41-34. That game was electric. Didn't like the outcome, but that game was electric, going back and forth. And everyone is thinking, or a lot of people thinking how, well, having so many extra teams in the college football playoffs is going to make the early season games insignificant. No, not at all. There's a Martin Scorsese meme of him just being like pure cinema, and it was. So Georgia was ranked number 2 that week, and so Bama, as a number 4 team in the country, upset number 2 at home. So that's pretty cool. Milroe had 374 yards of passing. Missed about 6 throws. That's really, really good. 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, but that's okay. He ran the most for the team too. 2 running touchdowns, 117 rushing yards. That's really awesome. So as a dominant number 1 team, like, you're just gonna bully your way around the SEC because you're in conference play now, and you're going to Vanderbilt, and you're losing. You're losing to Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was pretty good at the beginning of the season, so they must have been ranked, right? They were unranked. And he lost by 5. So technically a 1-possession game. So I guess that is close. I get it. Maybe that it was distracting for Alabama to be in the state of Tennessee, and with Vanderbilt, like, I get it. There's so much construction going around in the stadium. I'm not big into the SEC, but I know all the jokes about Vanderbilt and how it's such an easy place to play at, I guess. That, every conference has one cupcake or two, and this was the cupcake team. A perennial cupcake that most of the SEC teams could be like, all right, that's an easy win. But maybe they got distracted by all the construction going on, like all the men in the highlighter vests and shirts, and be like, oh, is that guy screwing in that window right? Or, oh, did he put his tools away? Did he follow OSHA guidelines? He's gonna fall. I don't want to see that happening. Oh man, I let the interception go. I let the guy do a pick 6 on me. Ah, oh, darn it, I'll get him on the next play, I guess. What happened, Bama? The week after that, you're at home. You won against South Carolina 27-25. Yes, that was close, but too close for a lot of analysts. That it should have been more dominant. And with that game, you fell to 7, from 1 to 7. Not even one full week where you ranked number 1. You had the 1 week, and that was it. You couldn't preserve that dominance. All right, whatever. I guess losing at Tennessee in Knoxville there to number 11 Tennessee at the time, 24-17 as a 1-possession game. Okay, you have two losses that are 1-possession games practically, so it's pretty close, I guess. And then you waxed out Missouri 34-0, who I'm very convinced. I like the theory that not my iPad, that the committee kept Missouri ranked so it could be an easy way to say, like, oh, well, Bama has a quality win over a ranked opponent, at least. They did really well in Death Valley, at least, 42-13. That was a wipeout. And then they won at home 52-7. That's a really good win. In late mid-November like that. Maybe that was in November, having a 52-7 beatdown. November is conference play, so they really stuck it to Mercer. I don't get it. I mean, okay, you had a cupcake win there. You couldn't get your cupcake win at Vanderbilt, so you might as well get your cupcake win at home. So, you're going to ramp up. You're going to get in the college football playoffs somehow. And, you're going to have one more road win going to Oklahoma. And it says L. Can anybody explain that to me? I mean, it was the last few games that they had lost by one possession. Pretty close games, technically speaking. Again, not a math major, but does anyone know if 24-3 is a one possession loss? Does anybody know? Anybody? Paul Feinbaum, you're a smart guy. Is that a one possession loss? So, no. This is. I know I went on a little bit more of a rant than I really should have, but no. This is why. All right, that's a bit of a long rant there, but this is basically to explain in detail there why Bama doesn't deserve to be or should be in the playoffs. I mean, the Alabama athletic director was all up in arms, crying like, "Oh, woe was us!" And I got the quote up here, and he was all in pissy mood that because strength of schedule has a higher status for the rankings and the selections. And because of that criteria, he thinks that they should, just change their whole non-conference scheduling because it's not going to matter in the future anyways, because it's going to hurt them anyways. Because I guess next year they're going to have someone in the Big Ten. I don't know if it's Ohio State. I wanted to say that. I maybe heard Notre Dame, but they were scheduling some bigger marquee schools for next year, it sounded like. But it's like, nope, we're going to, dial it back because it's going to punish us just in the end overall. No, scheduling for fucking Mercer in November is going to punish you. I mean, the only, good win for that non-conference play was Wisconsin because it was a Big Ten school at least. But, yes, playing at Wisconsin can be tough. Oregon was struggling with Wisconsin actually in October. That was a close game. That was good. But it's not the same. It is not the same anymore with Wisconsin, to be honest. So that's why Bama should not have been in. I mean, SMU, did they play in the SEC? That everyone just glazes over and circle jerks to think that it's the best thing since sliced bread. They did not play. But at least they had some decent non-conference play. They had Nevada and they had Houston Christian, which Nevada's in the Mountain West. Houston Christian is probably an FCS school at least. They lost to BYU by 3 at BYU. BYU did go on to have a really good run. They did step down a few points or ranking marks in their standings, but it's still, I would say a quality loss. They won against TCU at home. They have 2 ranked wins. Are they high ranked wins? To 22 Louisville and 18 Pitt? No, but I would still say that's ranked wins. I mean, I know that, yes, beating the number 2 team and beating a number 15 and then a 21. So, yes, Bama does have a 3-win record of ranked teams. But I think they have the 1 loss to a ranked opponent. But still, you had 3 losses overall. And is this about a feel-good story for SMU to come back and to kind of beat out Goliath, yeah, why not? Why not? We don't always need Bama in the playoffs. We don't always need to have SEC dominance. It's fine. I mean, we don't always need it. We can have, a year off from it. So, going into the rest of the bracket here, now that I've gone on such a rant, which I didn't mean to, overall, I think the committee got it right in turn, because for the longest time, there's always a case of leading up to the final ranking, the final selection. I will admittedly say these guys don't know what they're doing. But this is also a case of, and it did happen, where the projected conference champion seeds did not win their conference, actually. They lost and created some chaos, and it was Clemson. They weren't supposed to win. They weren't projected to win, so they caused some upset and some stir and chaos. That's cool. Good stuff. Now, hearing like Joel Klatt, I've heard on ESPN2, and some other places on YouTube that I've watched analysis on this, about the buys, having the top 4 ranked conference champions have a buy being absurd. I'm on the fence about that, to say that Boise State is waltzing in to the 3 seed compared to like Texas or Notre Dame or Penn State, who had a tougher schedule. This is where I had to tell my sister's boyfriend that he was wrong. Like, I get it, Kevin, you're also smart with sports, but college football is my area, is my realm that I'm better in. You can have the other sports. I'll take hockey too, but otherwise, college football is my area. That, because he was arguing that Penn State should have been ranked over Boise State. No. Penn State has been overranked this whole year, to be honest. That might be quite the hot take, because where do I have their schedule? Where do I have them? Up on my tabs, my 1,500 tabs open. So it was Penn State. They had 1 loss in the regular season to Ohio State. Yes, they did have, I believe they had the win. They had a lead at one point. So twice. No, they only had the lead for one time. That was it. But with Boise State playing the same opponent, and I can understand Kevin's argumentative point that a team at the beginning of the season compared to the end of the season is different, but still, that Boise State only loss of the season was to Oregon, at Oregon, by 3 points, compared to Penn State losing to Oregon in the Big Ten championship game by 8 points, by at least a 1.1 possession. I would still say Boise State would be better. It's and they also have the Heisman winner. The should be Heisman winner. They're probably gonna pick Travis Hunter in the Colorado, but Ashton Jeanty is the much better. If you're in the conversation, an inkling conversation of the name of Barry Sanders in the same sentence of comparison, or like you're chasing his record, no, you got to be highly considered for the Heisman. And like he's so close, it's not just like, oh, could he? But like, when will he do it? I think he, like, as of now, he's 130 some yards away from breaking the record or tying. But yeah, it's just incredible. And I know that not all the times that there's been a Heisman winner that has always had a championship or national champion team with them, playoff team with them, but I think it does help this time around with the expansion. Um, but I'd still say uh, Boise State over Penn State, and James Franklin being also a bit of a crybaby too in his retrospect as well. Um, so I can also understand about reseeding possibly with the bracket that as of now, and this was something that I've been hearing a lot about, how Oregon is screwed. Their pathway is not fair because Tennessee and Ohio State have to play, and right now Ohio State is a uh, about a touchdown favorite, 7.5 point favorite. And they're playing at Ohio State. So yes, does the SEC have dominance in college football? Yes. Do they have dominance in cold weather? Usually no. But that's just being a stereotypical Midwesterner calling out Southerners not handling the cold or any temperatures below 40 degrees, even 50, or one centimeter of snow. So then that winner gets to play Oregon, and Oregon being the number one seed, they I guess are supposed to have an automatic easy win or pathway to the championship game. And this also goes for any sport that has a bracket like this, where okay, you're the number one seed for a reason because you were the best during the season. I think Paul Feinbaum made, or Dan Orlovsky in this one first take segment I saw, maybe it was Shannon Sharp, that said, would we give Kansas City, a bye and then, the next team be the hardest, pathway to a Super Bowl? They're like, no. Yes. That's the point. If you're the number one seed, I mean, I'm a quasi Oregon fan because for college football, my favorite team is Illinois. It would be a miracle if we would be at this level of consideration. I mean, we had a good year for us. We had like a 6-0 run until we had our first loss to Penn State, maybe 5-0. We had an undefeated record going into playing Penn State. Had a ranked win at Nebraska where we were a pretty big underdog. Had 3 losses total. That's pretty good for us. But I had to cling to some other school. Oregon, Boise State here, Georgia, Bulldog is the greatest mascot. But I don't really have any sympathy of Oregon having this more difficult pathway. If you're the best team, it shouldn't matter who's in your way. You're going to dominate them regardless. That, especially the highlight of a Heisman finalist in Dylan Gabriel at quarterback, who was great at Oklahoma to begin with, has gotten better at Oregon. It shouldn't be a problem for them. That's my point of pathways don't matter because they're saying, well, SMU and Penn State, they're going to play Boise, and it's going to be easy for Penn State because they're going to steamroll SMU in a whiteout, and then they're going to play Boise State in the Fiesta Bowl, and then that's going to be easy for them. I'm sure they're going to make up an excuse of like, oh, because they had so much rest, they, weren't active and, weren't mentally prepared for it, and then they're just going to play either the winner of the Georgia and Notre Dame game from the Sugar Bowl. Bullshit. Total bullshit. I think that sorry. I think of all the teams here, there's only one game that I can really think of that would be considered an easy win. And I'll go over that in a moment here. So I could understand reseeding after the first round instead of just going straight chalk in terms of the pathway. Um, because let's say that Clemson, the 12th ranked team in the playoffs here, does beat Texas, and they would go on to play Arizona. But theoretically, they should play Oregon because they're the lowest seed versus the highest remaining seed. Um, or if like SMU was to win and Texas wins, then SMU would be the lowest seed that would play then Oregon instead of Boise State in the seeding here. So I can understand the reseeding. I don't think it's exactly necessary based off my point before that it really shouldn't matter who's in your way. Um, if you're ranked number one, especially with like the number one seeding part, all the other teams like with Georgia I can also understand, but like with like can understand too that Boise, as much of a Boise State fan I am, they aren't exactly the third best team in the country to be at the number three spot. I would say either Texas or Notre Dame would be number three technically. So I can understand maybe not having conference champions, having an automatic bye, automatic bid, yes. I would still like to think that conference championships do have some importance at least. So I still want to be more advocating and more on the side for conference champions to have the automatic bye who are in the top four rankings at least. But I can slightly understand the groveling from the other people. So, let's get some playoffs matched up here. Let's talk about who's going to be in and who's going to be moving on. Give me a moment. All right, looking at the first round here. Clemson at Texas. My dad would love this game because of all the orange that's involved. So in here, I'm going to say Texas. Tennessee versus Ohio State. Tennessee scumbag fans and hated Ohio State. This is tough. Not because of like, oh, it's a good game, because I just don't like either team. Um, yes, Ohio State's a favorite. They're coming off of a sloppy loss from Michigan's win, which was epic, which really disrupted a lot more going into the conference championship weekend. Because if they would have won, they would have played Oregon, and it would have pushed Penn State down even further, which might even have kept, I don't know, because Ohio State and Penn State are still in it, so maybe it still would have kept SMU in. It's a lot of different things that could have happened. But and here we'll go with the weather. We're gonna pick Ohio State. SMU and Penn State. Nay. Yeah, SMU is going to. They're going to be a little pissed. I really think that someone's going to piss in their cereal that day or that week, and they're just going to obliterate. Because I think that a lot of people have already been pissing in their cereal, like Paul Feinbaum, to try to say, well, they didn't deserve to be in. It's not about deserving, it's about being a better team in Alabama as a 3-loss team, and even admittedly saying that, well, they kind of did it to themselves, should have gotten in over SMU. So I'm pretty sure that this chip on the shoulder is actually going to work for SMU. It's going to be a cool scene to watch a whiteout for Penn State for a playoff game at night. That would be cool. But SMU. This is the one game where I think that it will be an easy win for this state of Indiana matchup. That Notre Dame, even though they had the one loss to NIU, go Huskies. That's my other team, which was really cool because it always keeps NIU in the conversation. Like every so often they'll mention on analysis like, oh, Notre Dame's one ugly loss at home to NIU by losing by 2 points. Like you mentioned NIU, that's cool. Didn't really affect them because afterwards they just spanked everybody else. I mean, maybe they didn't exactly spank because if I look at their record, if I try to find where they're at, like the next 2 weeks at least, they did not allow double-digit scoring against Purdue. Well, Purdue is total dumpster fire, and Miami of Ohio. And then even against Louisville, number 15 ranked at the time, they had at least a one-score win. They totally smoked out Georgia Tech, who had given problems to Georgia in 8 overtimes, and who also beat Miami to give them their first loss of the season. Riley Leonard. That's same part was last year. The quarterback for Notre Dame. And then just totally decimating Navy, 51-14. Navy at the time was ranked 24. They were undefeated. And then also spanking out Army, but they didn't score as many points. They only scored 49 compared to 51 when playing Navy in comparison. So, yeah, this one would be Notre Dame. So going on, Texas and Arizona State. Speaking of pissing in someone's cereal, Arizona State had their cereal pissed in because they totally spanked out Iowa State for no reason. It was like a 45-19 win, and I took Iowa State to cover by 7.5 points. Big mistake. I don't know. This one is a little tough because I think that there's some momentum because with Arizona State, they were meant to not be this good. They were projected to finish last in the Big 12, being a new member coming from the Pac-12, but they just came out of nowhere, and like with playoff pitching, playoff hockey, with the hot hand of the goalie, it's all about when you're hot at the right time. And I think Arizona State, even though I would say Texas would be a better school on paper, I still think somehow that ASU is going to win out just by a little bit. It's not going to be a blowout at all. It's going to be it'll be close. Ohio State, Oregon rematch, and they're going to play in the Rose Bowl. That'll be fun, and I'm pretty sure Oregon has a history of beating Ohio State in the Rose Bowl regardless anyways, not just because they won earlier this year to Ohio State, because their quarterback doesn't know how numbers and math works, that when the clock is 0 and you're down and you're on the ground and you're down by 2 points, you lose the game. So Oregon is going to move on easily. Boise State and SMU. Boise State is going to have a really good game with Ashton Genty. I'm going to put BSU there. But that one will be closer than you might think. And that's a Fiesta Bowl too, which is a home away from home for Boise State with their big win just that one time to Oklahoma. Pretty sure it was Oklahoma. That one epic 2007 or 2008 Fiesta Bowl that went to like 2-3 overtimes, and it was epic. So kind of a home field advantage for Boise State there. Notre Dame and Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. That is going to be a good game. But Riley Leonard, the quarterback, I was thinking of Sam Hartman, but that was the guy from last year. Riley Leonard is going to take them through to the semifinals. And here, so in the semifinals, the Goodyear Cotton Bowl will be Oregon and Arizona State. And Oregon is going to be moving on. And then it'll be the Orange Bowl that Notre Dame has shit the bed plenty of times before. And this will be the first that Boise State has really played through. And then they will have it'll be a bit of a blowout, to be honest. So it'll be Notre Dame and Oregon playing in the championship game. And where are they playing at? They're playing at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So they're playing it in Atlanta. This is tough. Because I think that Oregon is a really good team, but I think that there's been a lot of dominance with Notre Dame. Even though they have the one loss to NIU, again, talking about those other teams that they played, spanked them. And it's also a little tougher, too, with Notre Dame because they don't play in conference because they want to feel special about being non-conference tradition, I guess. So it's really tough to kind of pick here. It's really nitpicking, but alright, so that's going to do it, and my third take on this video is also 40 minutes long. Hooray, whatever. I'm going to do this regardless. Maybe I'll post this take, or maybe I'll post the other one. But yeah, I just wanted to do my talking head video about all of this. So we'll see how it turns out, who actually watches. And again, I'm not sorry to tell people like Paul Feinbaum, Joel Klatt, anyone else who wants to disagree with me, but is just wrong. Sorry, not sorry that you're wrong, that I'm right about this. So it's okay. It happens. But you just gotta kind of roll with it. And maybe next year. So thank you for watching. If you did watch, I probably will have mentioned at the beginning of this video that this is a talking head video. They would say you can just minimize this or play in the background. But if you did make it all the way through, please tell me, or please write in the comments that Red Grange is the best running back of all time. Galloping Ghost, Red Grange, U of I. Because U of I had a 100th year anniversary for his big game. It was like 400 some yards of scrimmage, at least 6 touchdowns, and at least 1 touchdown of throwing, receiving, and special team rushing. It was phenomenal. So if you made it all the way through, type in the comments Red Grange or Galloping Ghost, best running back in college football history. Because I really appreciate if you really made it all the way through this video, and I also take pity that you listen to me all the way through. As always, hats off to you for watching. I will see you next time in class, everyone, for probably a hat video. Class is dismissed. Bye, everybody.